Oh, here we go again.
There's so much potential
but we will get the job done.
for beauty.
And we are grateful
So
to
close.
President Obama.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. And look, like many of you, I'm a little tired of Marvel movies. I think there'll be a spot in the future where I'm interested in them. But, you know, fortunately, there really isn't any coming out right now. With everything being shut down, I've even lost interest in Black Widow. Will I rent it? Sure, probably. Am I going to pay for a premium VOD for $20 to watch it? No. Would I be inclined to get in a boat and paddle out into deeper waters and watch it? Well, that's perhaps even more enticing. But eventually, movie theaters will reopen in some capacity, and Hollywood machine will continue churning out formulaic, low-stakes Marvel movies to entertain the normies and also the true comic book fans. Marvel films succeed because they're entertaining the normies, but also they give comic book fans something to look forward to. People that love Spider-Man get to see endless Spider-Man movies that are low risk, and they know they're going to see another Spider-Man movie in 3 years. Marvel has followed the same formula for the last 15 or so movies, and they've generally perfected it. Now that they've had some time to think, though, and they've kind of finished the cycle with, you know, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Chris Hemsworth as Thor, now they're looking to how they could possibly change things up. And I think Sony has the perfect idea. Hire a feminist to make a female-centric movie and profit. Remember how well that worked for Ghostbusters 2016, how well that worked for Terminator Dark Fate, how well that worked for a slew of movies that started with that equation. Now, obviously, this argument gets twisted into the, well, how do you know it's going to be a bad movie? Or a female-centric movie doesn't necessarily have to be bad. No, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. There's a lot of great movies. And in fact, Olivia Wilde, who is raising her son as a feminist, put out a movie called Booksmart, which was loved by critics, and fans thought it was okay. I tried watching about 15 minutes of it, and it was just kind of tired and cringe. Like the format was tired. I don't know if that was really her fault or not. But I'm not really excited to see an Olivia Wilde directed film. But maybe I'm not the target audience. You can see Olivia Wilde, feminist, is tapped to direct female-centered Marvel movie. This was last night. Now, earlier today, we found out what movie that actually is. Now, if you want to know who Olivia Wilde is, of course, Olivia Wilde raising a feminist son and daughter. That's right. Strong, independent woman. Olivia Wilde, how I'm raising my son to be a feminist and my daughter to believe that gender equality isn't controversial. Olivia Wilde is a stunning and brave feminist with, you know, a fair amount of films under her belt. But this is the problem. When you start a film and you don't know what it is, but you're like, we want it to be female-centric and we want to hire a feminist to direct it, and we'll fill in all the blanks later, you get Ghostbusters 2016. Olivia Wilde to direct untitled Marvel movie. Yes, it has taken years for Marvel to finally put the heroines in front and center of their own stories. Well, Captain Marvel made $1 billion. And while a slew of women-led blockbusters can't correct the egregiously sexist storylines the comic book giant sent to theaters in the past, there's reason to be cautiously optimistic. Deadline reports that Olivia Wilde of Booksmart directorial fame, so one movie, will be at the helm for an untitled female-led Marvel film, and the rumor has it will most likely be Spider-Woman. Here's a problem. I think a Spider-Woman movie could be great. Obviously, Spider-Woman isn't exactly some new character. It's not a gender-bent Spider-Man movie. There's lore, there's history, there's everything the movie needs to be great. But if you trot it out there without using the formula where you introduce Spider-Woman in a different Spider-Man movie or something like that, I don't know how well it's going to do. Spider-Woman feels less risky, but then we saw Harley Quinn, also feminist, female-directed, completely tank at the box office. So are they going to market it? Will they market it as like, not your guys Spider-Man, it's a lady Spider-Man. Men, not required. If that's the kind of stuff they're going to do, it's going to be disaster. I mean, I'm hoping they do because, it'll be great content for this channel. But why so exciting? So why is that more exciting than Dark Phoenix, which, by the way, is a complete disaster? Black Widow, which I think would have been okay. And I'm actually bummed because I was curious how kind of post-Endgame Infinity War kind of Marvel films would do. Black Widow was going to be the first chance for us to see. I was probably going to see it in the theater because it looked decent. But now we'll never know. It's going to be released on PVOD for sure. Or even Birds of Prey, because it proves Hollywood is ready to invest in an entirely new character rather than the names and characters who have been rebooted for years. What are you talking about? Captain Marvel was brand new. Are you just ignoring that? You didn't even mention Captain Marvel in this whole article. What would Brie Larson say? The film could also be a signal of a step towards the new Avengers appearing on screen near you. Here's everything we know. We can't be sure the project is Spider-Woman, but it's likely. Although Wilde's project is only rumored to be Spider-Woman, there's good reason to trust that this is more than a hunch. Unfinished Marvel projects are kept tight under lock and key. Here and there's enough rabid interest in the universe, the leaks are always possible, and often accurate. It's unlikely Deadline will report on the rumor if there wasn't a significant chance it's true. Second, mere hours after Deadline announced Wilde's spot in the directorial seat, Marvel Entertainment published an article called 7 Things to Know About Spider-Woman. Maybe I'm reading too far into things, but it seems a little suspicious, doesn't it? Yet there are no coincidences. The woman behind the mask could be any number of characters. Hopefully it's Brie Larson. One of the many joys and pains of comic book lore is its complexity. Between all the alternate universes and shifting identities, it's nearly impossible to track who's who. So when you hear Spider-Woman, you might envision Spider-Man's sidekick or a sister. Thankfully, Marvel's Spider-Woman is neither, though she could have one of several names. First and most likely candidate is Jessica Drew, back from 1977. Drew went on to headline her own popular comic book series and television show. Yeah, Spider-Woman was relatively popular, so I think it makes sense. It's gonna all come down to how they market it, though. If they market it like they did for Birds of Prey, it's gonna fail. Unlike Peter Parker, she was not bitten by a radioactive spider. Instead, her parents, Dr. Jonathan Drew and Miriam Drew, accidentally exposed their daughter to uranium that her father was researching to save her life. I mean, there's a wide variety of characters. All could be good. It's going to come down, honestly, to how they market it. And, people are going to react to this, to my content. By the way, smash like if you're enjoying this video. And if you haven't already, please consider clicking that subscribe button. It helps new people find the channel. It makes finding my videos easier. And I would really appreciate it. There isn't, I'm being dead serious here. I don't believe that this is going to be an inherently bad movie. But when you lead in with the, oh, it's a stunning and brave feminist. Oh, it's a female-led movie directed by a feminist, directed by somebody who's directed one film before, which was another girl power film. I'm not sure. That Ewan McGregor, no, who said that? Was it Ewan McGregor from Birds of Prey? I forget what his name was. The quote like, oh, it's going to scare the heck out of toxic males. Yeah, it scared us, all males, so badly that we didn't see your movie. Because we know that when you say toxic males, you just mean regular dudes. Despite all the speculation, we don't know. But you see, Olivia Wilde set to direct rumored Spider-Woman movie for Marvel. It's so weird that you would hire the director before, I guess, I don't know how this part works, but when you promote a director, before you figure out a story and things like that, it seems odd, but I suppose the director would want to be involved in the script writing and things like that. After a litany of Spider-Man films, it looks like Marvel's ready to shake things up with a new superhero. Deadline reports that Olivia Wilde, director of last year's underappreciated Booksmart, nah, it wasn't that great. I'm sure it had, if you had not seen like all this, like it was basically, wasn't it like just a ripoff of Superbad, but girls instead of guys? Or was that, I mean, it just wasn't very compelling to me. It looked like it probably had some goofs and some gaffes that were funny. And certainly I'm sure people liked it. Marvel Cinematic Universe is rumored to be based on the character Spider-Woman. The film will be written by Wilde with her writing partner. Okay, so she's directing and writing it. Written by Wilde with her writing partner Katie Silberman, and Amy Pascal will produce. Wilde, who reportedly almost passed on the project due to her busy schedule, joins Candyman's Nia DaCosta as a second female director recently tapped by the studio to direct major films. Spider-Woman has been the alter ego of many females in the Spider-Man comic book universe since the 70s. Yeah, I mean, I think that Spider-Woman, what people will misrepresent when people criticize this is that, look, I'm not saying that this isn't one of those situations where you're gender bending or you're just cramming some character in. No, Spider-Woman has legitimate lore and deserves a movie. It's going to come down to how they market it and whether or not they want to go the we don't need men. And the same thing with Candyman's Nia DaCosta. She's directed one film before this, or two. Technically, Candyman, which we haven't seen, and probably, given the fact that it's attached to Jordan Peele, will be suboptimal. And then some other indie film before that it was not very impressive. So you have Nia DaCosta, who has like one or two films, and you have Olivia Wilde, who has one or two films, although she's been in Hollywood a long time. I don't care that you're a woman. I care that you do a good job with it. And Captain Marvel 2 is going to have a lot to live up to because it's not going to be required reading. You know, the reason Captain Marvel made $1 billion is because it was marketed as required reading before the finale in the Marvel story arc. Yeah, it still would have done all right. I think it still is a $700 million movie. After all, it's still a Marvel film. But the real question is going to be, how do these films do now that the story arc is over? Are you going to try to rehash? Are you going to bring Thanos back to try to drag everyone back in? I know myself, I'm just far less interested in Marvel, at least from going to the cinema. And now if you're just trying to grab headlines by hiring more women, I mean, they've got a lot to live up to. And it's going to be interesting to see how they market this film. I have general interest in a Spider-Woman film, but I have no faith in how they'll market it, and if they choose to go down that path, I'll be skipping it just like Birds of Prey. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.